where that your fascination with, maybe it's my interpretation, but with fertility and parenthood comes from, or motherhood.
Well, I mean, it's central to human existence and to society, to how society survives and develops. And because of that, it creates all kinds of interesting dynamics, and so much stems from it. So the film is not only about fertility; it's not about only about having children, but it's about different shapes of motherhood and parenthood in general. It's also about the relationship between the individual and society, about the control of one's body, particularly with women, women's control of their own body, tradition and how tradition affects the individual and the individual's life, and about loyalty. So all of these various types of relationships affect or stem from the desire to have children. So it was interesting to explore the intersection of all of this in that little individual unit called family.
I thought the film was very interesting because it goes through three different stories, but they're linked in a way. Could you explain that?
Well, I like a fractured narrative because it keeps you on your toes. It sort of it gives opportunities to play with how a story is composed, and how a story also is composed in the mind of the viewer. So in this case, there are three seemingly separate stories, but then they connect. They connect not necessarily on a narrative level, where even though there's that too, um, there's there narrative strands that begin in one story and actually finish in the next story. But I was more interested in echoes and rhymes and contrasts of different elements. And what unifies the three stories really is the theme, the subject of motherhood, and the other things I mentioned earlier, control over one's body, the relationship between the individual and society, etc. So the first story takes place, is set in late medieval times in Macedonia. It's in sort of undetermined period, even though we knew we were working with the 16th century, but actually life didn't change much in Macedonia. So like whether it was 18th or 19th century, or whether it was 8th century, it was life was almost the same. And the other two stories are in contemporary Skopje. It's the capital. It's a city of about 750,000 people, dense and dirty and intense, and people go on with their lives the way they would in pretty much any city anywhere in the world. So I like the contrast, but also the echo and the similarities between the two different eras and the different places.
Um, there are beautiful close-ups that I think they're very important for the narrative. Could you comment a little on the need for close-ups in a story like that, or why did you choose some extreme, you know?
Well, I mean, for me, writing is the fun part, and directing is just finding the right way to complete the storytelling process, to um, to find the right emotional tone for each narrative sentence or each narrative chapter. And so close-ups are part of that storytelling technique. Yeah, there are quite a few beautiful close-ups because we had great actors. So then it's like you sort of want to emphasize that you want it to be there because the truth in their performance, the truth on their face was so powerful that you wanted it clean and clear and big there on the screen. Um, but actually, we played with the full keyboard. There's some like beautiful, big, open, wide vistas, both in the city and especially in the medieval story, and also big jumbo close-ups where you like really go in tight. The cinematographer was Tamás Dobos, a young Hungarian um, maestro. So it was good. It was really good.
Eh, how important is it for you the award season? I mean, we will be showcasing your movie or this interview in a special about the Oscars. So, do you ever think about Oscars or award seasons, or you're a little, or you just do your films and
I did my share of awards. With the first film I directed was nominated and got the Golden Lion in Venice and won like another 30 awards. And I've won awards since as well. And I mean, it's nice to be recognized, but it's by no means essential for the work. And um, if you keep thinking about the awards, especially while you're making the film, I think you compromise your work because then you start calculating, and that's really bad for art. I mean, your dialogue needs to be with the work itself, and the work knows when you're faking it, and it's like you just need to be really honest and sacrifice if necessary, and have your dialogue with your art, and everything else, if it falls in place, it's nice. At this stage it really doesn't change that much in how I feel about my work. Obviously it makes a big difference for the distribution and for how many people are going to see the work, and the financial aspect and how easy it is to finance the next film. But at its core, it's just a peripheral thing. It's like, you know,
in
I
the
don't want to say who cares, but it's almost who cares.
cool? But what was the impact of Before the Rain in your career as a filmmaker and a writer?
Oh well, I mean, it threw me for a loop, an incredible loop. It was like a train had hit me because overnight I was um, recognized for what I was making for my work. Before then, I was like, I pretty much didn't exist um, as a known filmmaker. So all of a sudden, it was, I was like completely unknown. And 2 months later, I've made a film that's on the New York Times list of 1,000 best films ever made. So now, how do you justify that? So it was like a train hit me, and then it took me a while to regain my balance.
And now you're cool about
I would like to think so.
it. And how did you choose the casting for? I mean, the actresses and actors are really cool in this film in Willow. Uh, was it a
They're
tough process of you knew who you wanted, or
they're incredibly good. I mean, I feel fantastic about these actors, every single one of them, including the 5-year-old boy and the 85-year-old retired actress Radka Radmanovic. It was a long process. I always do that, work very closely with the casting director, um, where we look for people who are for actors whose craft is really good. So I don't care so much about the looks. It's the craft. And in order to see A, what their craft is like, and then B, whether these actors are right for these particular roles, we go through a long casting process. In this case, it took about 4 or 5 months. We had like, I think, 6 or 7 rounds. Um, Two of the leads are first timers. They're newcomers. Basically, they've never really been in a feature film before. So then, I mean, you just like zero in on the performance, on the craft, on the dedication, on whether actors hear what you want to say, and then we do rehearsals, and that's really important. So usually it's about 3 weeks per film. So we sit down, we do it like the old school way, just reading at the table. First, it's everybody sits around the table. We go through the whole script and then go scene by scene, where we, spend a few hours on each scene, where you just read it, don't act, just read it, then talk about it, then start acting. By then, the actors know the script really well because they've gone through a long casting process. So it's not like we're starting from zero, from scratch. So except for two parts in the entire film, everybody else went through this casting process. And then when you're rehearsing, you really find the nuances. If something needs to be changed in the script, you change it then, rather than on the set. If you need to improvise, you improvise then. But then you take the improvisation and put it in the script, so it becomes part of the document. So when you go to shoot, you're ready. I keep saying how I like what Bergman said, that rehearsal is creation, and filming is recreation. So you've created what you wanted to see emotionally, especially in a particular scene, and then a good actor should be able to put that in a jar and save it, put it aside for a couple of weeks, for a month, until it's time to shoot it.
And Milcho, my last question: what was the impact of the pandemic in the distribution of the film? For some people, this kind of films got more audience now because we're all like eager to watch things at home. We don't, you know.
Well, it cut us off in the middle. It took our uh, we were mid stride when the pandemic happened. The film had just opened in Macedonia. It broke it broke records in theatrical distribution, and then we had deals to go on, and then everything stopped. There were festivals, like we were going to CineQuest. CineQuest played the first week, and then we were going to screen in the second week. Then the festival stopped, and it was like 6 7 months later it picked up, and now we were again at the festival, but not in theaters anymore, and we won the festival. So it basically it slowed us down. It didn't kill the film, but it slowed it down, because now it's picking up on various platforms and even in theaters. It just opened in Hungary 2 weeks ago, and we have a couple of other nice distribution deals set up, including the US, which should happen over the next whatever weeks and months. So yeah, the pandemic was a big kink, but life goes on.